The morning mist clung to Blackwood Forest like a ghost refusing to let go. Officer Jack Miller tightened his jacket against the chill, his boots crunching over damp leaves as he followed the unnatural tire marks veering off the gravel path. 10 years patrolling these woods had taught him every shadow, every whisper of the wind. But this was different. The tracks were fresh, deep, as if someone had driven recklessly into the heart of the forest, where no roads led. His fingers brushed, the radio on his shoulder, a silent reassurance as he stepped deeper into the trees. The usual sounds of the forest, the chirping of birds, the rustle of squirrels, were absent. Only an eerie silence pressed against his ears, heavy and unnatural. Then he saw it. In the center of a small, overgrown clearing, the coffin sat like a grotesque offering. It wasn't buried. It wasn't even hidden. The old, weather-beaten wood was caked in moss and dirt, as if it had been dragged from the earth and placed there deliberately. Jack's pulse quickened. His first thought was, a sick joke. Kids, maybe, or some twisted Halloween decoration left behind. But the air was too still, too wrong. His breath fogged in front of him as he approached, each step feeling heavier than the last. Kneeling beside the coffin, he hesitated. The lid was slightly ajar, as if waiting for him. With a deep breath, he pried it open. The smell of damp decay hit him first. Then the sight, a corpse, preserved as if time had slowed around it, dressed in the faded uniform of a sheriff. The fabric was decades out of date, the badge tarnished but unmistakable. Jack's stomach lurched. The dead man's face, lined with age, yet hauntingly familiar, bore the same sharp jawline, the same faint scar above the left brow, his scar, and the badge. Jack's fingers trembled as he touched his own chest, confirming what he already knew. Badge, Docker 2175. Identical. His breath came in short gasps as he noticed the corpse's hands, one clutching a faded photograph of a woman with hollow eyes, the other resting atop a yellowed envelope. His name was scrawled across it in handwriting that made his blood run cold. His own. The forest seemed to lean in, watching, as Jack tore open the envelope. The letter inside was brief, the words smudged as if written in haste or fear. If you're reading this, the cycle has started. Again. The words blurred as he read, his mind screaming in denial. The signature at the bottom was the final blow. Jack Miller. His hands shook so violently the paper slipped from his grasp. The radio crackled to life at his shoulder, static hissing like a warning. He fumbled for it, his voice barely recognizable, as he called for backup. But before dispatch could respond, a whisper cut through the silence behind him. A woman's voice, soft and mournful, echoing from the trees. "You came back, just like I knew you would." Jack turned slowly, dread clawing up his throat. The woman from the photograph stood at the edge of the clearing, her dress tattered, her eyes empty. And as he stumbled back, the forest itself seemed to whisper his own voice back to him, a taunting echo from the shadows. The forest doesn't forget, and it never lets go. Jack's legs moved before his mind could process the horror in front of him. He sprinted through the trees, branches whipping at his face, the woman's whisper chasing him like a cold breath on the back of his neck. His radio crackled again, but the voices were distorted, garbled syllables that sounded more like laughter than words. He didn't stop. He couldn't. The forest seemed to shift around him, paths he had known for years now twisting into unfamiliar shapes, the fog thickening until he could barely see 5 feet ahead. His breath burned in his lungs, but the clearing, the coffin, felt like it was still right behind him, waiting. Then, a break in the trees. A road. Jack nearly sobbed in relief as his patrol car came into view, parked exactly where he'd left. He wrenched the door open and slammed it shut behind him, hands shaking as he turned the key. The engine roared to life, and for the first time since he'd opened that coffin, He felt a flicker of control. He grabbed the radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Miller. I need immediate assistance at the eastern edge of Blackwood Forest. Possible." His voice caught. What could he even say? "I found my own corpse in a coffin. A ghost called my name." He swallowed hard. Possible homicide. Unidentified remains. Requesting backup and coroner. Static. Then a too calm voice replied, "Copy that, officer. Units are en route." Jack exhaled, gripping the wheel until his knuckles turned white. He glanced in the rearview mirror and froze. The back seat wasn't empty. A figure sat there, slumped, face shadowed. The sheriff from the coffin. Jack's own dead eyes stared back at him. He jerked around, heart hammering, but the seat was empty. Just his imagination. Just the stress. He forced himself to breathe. The drive back to the station was a blur, his mind racing. The letter's warning echoed in his skull. Don't trust HQ. But where else could he go? The station parking lot was oddly quiet when he arrived. No other cruisers, no chatter from the bullpen. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows. Sergeant Hayes looked up from his desk, frowning. "Miller, you look like hell. What's wrong?" Jack opened his mouth, then hesitated. Hayes's badge gleamed under the lights. Badge, Nucker2.74, 1 digit off from his own. From the corpse's. His throat went dry. I found something in the woods. A body. In a coffin." Hayes's expression didn't change. "Did you now?" It wasn't a question. He stood slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. "You always had a knack for finding trouble, Jack." Something in his tone made Jack step back. The station doors locked with a click behind him. The air in the station grew thick, like the walls themselves were pressing in. Hayes took a slow step forward, his eyes never leaving Jack's. There was something wrong with his face, something off. The shadows under his brow seemed deeper, his smile too wide, as if his skin didn't quite fit. Jack's hand drifted toward his sidearm, but Hayes noticed. The sergeant's grin stretched further. "You don't remember, do you?" Hayes's voice was wrong. Too many layers, like multiple people speaking at once. "But the forest does. It always remembers." Jack's back hit the door. His pulse roared in his ears. "What the hell are you talking about?" Hayes tilted his head, and for a split second, his features flickered, like a film reel glitching. Beneath the familiar stubble and weathered skin, Jack caught a glimpse of something rotted, hollow. Then it was gone. "You've been here before, Jack. You just don't stay dead." The radio on Hayes's desk crackled to life. A dispatcher's voice, flat and monotone. "All units. Officer Miller is compromised. Repeat, Officer Miller is not to leave the forest perimeter." Jack's breath came in short gasps. He glanced at the window. The glass was fogged, but beyond it, the trees of Blackwood loomed closer than they should have been. Branches tapped against the pane like skeletal fingers. Hayes reached into his desk drawer. Metal glinted. A revolver, old and rusted. The same model the corpse in the coffin had been wearing. "You've got two choices, kid. Go back to the woods and let it finish what it started. Or put a bullet in me and see what happens." He chuckled, a wet, rattling sound. "But we both know how this ends." A crash from the back office made them both turn. The sound of something heavy hitting the floor. Then, dripping, Jack didn't. Wait! He bolted for the emergency exit, shoulder-checking the bar so hard the alarm screamed to life. Cold air hit his face as he spilled into the alley behind the station. His patrol car was still there, but the tires were slashed. Useless. From inside the building, Hayes's voice boomed, distorted. "Run, Jack! It's more fun when you run." And then, from the trees at the end of the alley, the woman, the one from the photo. Her dress was no longer tattered. It was pristine, old-fashioned, like something from a century ago. She held out a pale hand. "You don't have much time," she whispered. "Come with me if you want to live." Behind him, the station doors burst open. Jack didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the woman, his lungs burning, his mind screaming that this was a trap, that nothing in Blackwood could be trusted. But the thing that had been wearing Hayes's face was worse. The woman turned and vanished into the trees, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. Jack followed, branches clawing at his arms as the forest swallowed him whole. The deeper he ran, the colder the air became. The trees here were gnarled, twisted into shapes that made his stomach churn. Some bent like screaming faces, others coiled like serpents ready to strike. The woman moved effortlessly ahead, never looking back, her bare feet leaving no prints in the damp earth. Jack's radio buzzed again, but this time, the voice wasn't dispatch. It was his own. "You still don't get it, do you?" The voice sighed, dripping with pity. "This isn't the first time you've run. It won't be the last." Jack ripped the radio from his belt and hurled it into the undergrowth. The woman stopped abruptly, her back still turned. Before her stood a crumbling stone well, half swallowed by ivy and thyme. She pointed at it with a trembling finger. "Look," she whispered. Jack edged forward, his boots sinking into the soft earth. The well's opening was pitch black, but the smell hit. Him first, damp rot, copper, something sweet and spoiled. Then the sound. Dripping. Not water. His stomach lurched as he peered over the edge. Far below, barely visible in the gloom, something moved. Pale, bloated fingers clawed at the slick stones. A face tilted up toward him. His own, waterlogged and grinning, eyes milky with death. "See?" the corpse in the well croaked. "You always come back." Jack recoiled, but the woman grabbed his wrist. Her grip was iron, her skin freezing. "Listen to me," she hissed. "This town isn't real. Not anymore. The forest took it, took everyone. The night Sheriff Miller buried the first badge in the well." Her hollow eyes bored into his. "Your badge. The one you're wearing now." Jack's free hand flew to his chest. The metal was warm, pulsing like a heartbeat. A howl echoed through the trees. Not an animal. Something worse. The woman's face twisted in fear. "They're coming," she said, shoving him toward the well. "Jump or die. Choose." From the darkness below, a chorus of whispers rose. "Jack, Jack, we've been waiting." The whispers from the well coiled around Jack like smoke, pulling at him with invisible fingers. The woman's grip tightened, her nails biting into his skin. "There's no time," she pleaded. Behind them, the forest erupted in noise, cracking branches, guttural snarls, the unmistakable sound of something hunting. Jack's instincts screamed at him to run. But where? The trees were closing in, their roots writhing like awakened serpents. The thing wearing Hayes's face would be here soon. And the well. The well was singing to him now, a low, mournful tune that made his bones ache with recognition. He made his choice. With a gasp, he wrenched free of the woman's grasp and jumped. The fall lasted forever. Darkness swallowed him whole. The air, rushing past his face thick with the stench of wet earth and old blood. He braced for impact, but it never came. Instead, he landed softly, as if the well had caught him. Silence. Then, light. Not sunlight, something colder, bluer, flickering like dying embers. Jack realized he was standing in a cavern, its walls lined with badges. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all identical to his own, rusted and tarnished and nailed into the stone like grotesque trophies. Beneath each one, a nameplate, A.J. Miller. J. Miller, J. Miller, a choked sound escaped his throat. This wasn't a well, it was a grave. A figure stepped from the shadows. An old man in a rotted sheriff's uniform, his face a mirror of Jack's own, just older. Wiser. Weary. "Took you long enough," the old man rasped. "I've been down here waiting through 7 cycles. 7 times you've worn that badge. 7 times the forest has eaten you alive." He gestured to the cavern walls. "These are all you. Every version that came before. Every version that failed." Jack's legs gave out. He collapsed to his knees, his fingers digging into the damp soil. "Why?" The old man's laugh was a dry rattle. "Because Blackwood doesn't let go of its sheriffs. Not ever. That badge." He pointed at Jack's chest. "It's a leash. The moment you pinned it on, you became part of the cycle." A sound echoed from above, scraping, slithering. Something was climbing down. The old man's eyes widened. "They're here, which means it's time." He grabbed Jack's shoulders, his breath reeking of grave dirt. "You have to remember. Really remember. The woman up there, she's not here to help you. She's the reason this started." From the darkness above, a single word drifted down, sweet as poison. Jack. The old man's grip turned desperate. Her name was Clara, and you loved her. The name hit Jack like a bullet. Clara. Memories surged, flashes of a woman's laughter, a sunlit porch, her fingers laced with his. Then fire, screams, a badge, tossed into this very well in a fit of grief. The old man, himself, watched as Jack's hands trembled, his voice barely a whisper. "She died. The fire? The whole town?" The old sheriff nodded grimly. "And you blamed yourself. You threw your badge down here, cursed the earth that took her. But the forest listened, Jack. It gave her back. Or something wearing her face." Above, them. The slithering grew louder, closer. Jack's breath came in ragged gasps. "You're saying Clara, the thing up there, isn't real?" "She's real enough," the old man spat. "Just not yours. The forest feeds on regret. It digs into your soul and dresses up its horrors in the faces of those you loved." He grabbed a rusted badge from the wall, thrusting it into Jack's hands. "Break the cycle. Bury this where it belongs." The badge burned against Jack's palm, searing like a brand. Shadows pooled at the edges of the cavern, forming shapes, long limbs, hollow eyes. The things from above had arrived. The old man shoved Jack toward a narrow tunnel. "Go! When you reach the heart of the forest, you'll know what to do." Jack stumbled into the passage, the whispers of his past selves swirling around him. The walls pulsed like living flesh as he ran, the badge's heat spreading up his arm. The tunnel sloped upward, spitting him out into a moonlit grove he recognized, the clearing where he'd found the coffin. But now the coffin was open. Empty. A hand touched his shoulder. Clara stood behind him, her eyes brimming with tears. "You left me," she whispered. "Again." Behind her, the trees bent inward, forming a cage of bone-white branches. The wind carried a single phrase, repeated in 100 voices. "Stay, stay, stay." Jack looked down at the badge in his hand, then at the one still pinned to his chest. He understood now. The wind howled through the clearing as Jack stood frozen between the coffin and Clara's outstretched hand. Her fingers trembled. So human, so real, but her eyes reflected the moonlight in a way no living thing ever could. The badge in his palm burned hotter, its edges cutting into his skin like a silent warning. "You don't have to leave," Clara whispered, stepping closer. The scent of old roses and damp earth clung to her, the same way it had the night she'd died. "We could be together here. Forever." For a heartbeat, Jack wavered. The forest's pull was magnetic, a siren song of absolution. He could lay down his badge. He could step into the coffin and let the earth claim him, just as it had claimed all the other Jacks before him. No more guilt, no more running. Then, a flicker in Clara's smile. Too wide, too many teeth. The illusion cracked. Jack recoiled, clutching the rusted badge. "You're not her," he breathed. "You're just another part of the curse." The forest shuddered. The trees groaned as their roots tore free from the soil, slithering toward him. Clara's face twisted, her skin splitting like old parchment to reveal the hollow darkness beneath. "You were supposed to stay!" she shrieked, her voice unraveling into a chorus of wails, the voices of every officer who had ever fallen to Blackwood's hunger. Jack didn't hesitate. He slammed the rusted badge into the coffin's rotting wood with all his strength. The moment metal touched the grave, the earth beneath him convulsed. The coffin erupted into flames, cold, blue flames that didn't burn but erased, devouring the false Clara in a whirlwind of ash and whispers. The trees recoiled, their branches blackening as the fire spread. Jack stumbled back, his own badge, searing against his chest. He ripped it free with a cry, the metal blistering his fingers. This was the choice. Not just to remember, but to let go. He threw his badge into the heart of the fire. The explosion of light knocked him to the ground. When his vision cleared, the forest was different. The trees stood tall and ordinary, the morning sun filtering peacefully through the leaves. No coffin, no whispers, just the distant chirp of birds and the sigh of the wind. And in the dirt, at his feet, a single weathered badge, half buried in the soil. Badge, Gus 2196. Jack's breath caught. Somewhere, another officer was just waking up, strapping on their uniform, unaware of the cycle waiting for them. He reached for the badge, then stopped and walked away. Epilogue. The town of Blackwood still tells stories about the cop who vanished into the forest one foggy morning. Some say he ran from the job. Others swear they've seen him wandering the trees at dusk, warning hikers away from old graves. But deep in the woods, if you listen closely, you might hear the wind carry two words. Bury it. And if you're smart, you'll obey.
Subscribe and press the bell icon so that you never miss the amazing video.